Conor McGregor is out and Alex Pereira is in. Before we get into that, if you're new here, make sure you subscribe as we have brand new videos every single week. So Conor McGregor is out of UFC 303 with a minor injury, and Alex Pereira has stepped up to rematch with Jiri Prochazka. But let's talk a little bit about Conor and Michael Chandler before we talk about the new Superman of the UFC, Alex Pereira. Mark, are you fed up of all this back and forth with Conor and Chandler? At the minute, it feels like some wanky sitcom, doesn't it?
I don't care anymore. I'm not really bothered. Let's face it, it's a throwaway fight anyway. It's not for a title. It's just to see who will come out on top in that situation. Potentially, there's a chance of a title shot. Neither man deserves it. But this has been going on for over a year now. When the
Yeah.
Ultimate Fighter was announced, the idea is that you're meant to fight at the end of that. Instead, he goes and makes a bad remake in a movie. Poor Michael Chandler, he's been out and sidelined since this because he wants that big money fight. We're missing out on Michael Chandler as well. You said this a few months ago with how whether you love him or hate him, each one of his fights in the UFC have been bangers. And
Yeah.
we're missing out on that because of this stop and start process. Is If this fight even happens, do you think that we've got a timeline? When do you think it might even happen?
I'm not sure, to be honest. So, like with toe injuries, it's like what, 4 to 6 weeks, isn't it? And apparently, he broke his foot about a week ago. Well, his toes about a week ago. So, we're looking 4 to 5 weeks. Then what? You got to train again. So that's four, another 4 weeks. So we're looking a month, 2 months preferably. So it's looking August, September time. But the issue is August, that's 3 or 5. You've got your main event there. That's Izzy and Duplessis. UFC or 6. That's going to be on Mexican Independence Day in the Sphere. And Dana kept saying he wants a Mexican fighter to headline. So it's like, gosh, when is going to be an ideal time? But I really, really don't know. But Mike, if Connor does come back in August, like that plan is, that's at 3 or 5, right? Do you think we could see him co-main instead of being a main event? Because he spoke about this before. He said he wants a 3 round fight. So if he had a 3 round fight with Connor, co-main, Izzy and DDP as the main event, I think that's a good way for him to slide back in to MMA rather than do this big 5 round and the main event.
I think so, and I think it's the right thing to do because whether fans like it or not, he ain't shit. Now, what does he do? Why is he the main event?
Yeah.
Who cares, really? He might be a big star, and his highlight reel was the best part of a decade ago. Yet, if you in that same argument, if you did have Mark Zuckerberg v. Elon Musk, they're big names, so they'd be the main event. It's just because it's a star attraction. His actual in cage, in ring, whatever you want to call it. What's he impressed anyone with in the past few years? Who cares? This is rightfully so. If it does go that way, Izzy and DDP the main event and Conor the co-main, that's how it should go. He can't main event forever because he
I
can't
agree.
withhold that standard one bit. You want to get one rise. His rise was probably the best in the business. That's it. Then he fell off. If we're looking at it objectively, like without any favoritism in there, he's fell after he won the lightweight gold. He's fallen off. A win against Cowboy. Okay, right, move on.
Without a doubt, yeah. I mean, main eventing for a big card, it feels ultimately pointless, isn't it? Like you were saying, Chandler versus Conor doesn't mean anything. Yeah, it's a fun fight, but is it a main event of a pay-per-view? No, it shouldn't really be. So I think, yeah, a 3 rounder co-main event, I think that's a great idea for Conor. Come out, Izzy and DDP, they're main eventing. They'll make a lot of cash as well because, like what you said, Conor's still one of, if not one of the biggest stars in combat sports. So great pay-per-view points for them, lots of money to be made. So I think it's win-win for everyone. Conor wants it. Izzy and DDP would want it. Let's do that, right? Stick them on co-main event, 3 or 5, and then it doesn't matter if Connor pulls out again or if he's injured because the card's already substantial as it is. But do you think, Mark, do you feel sorry for the people who've paid all this money to go see Connor at UFC 303 to pay to go see him live? It's a lot of money thrown away, right?
It is a lot of money, but honestly, if you're willing to pay that much for a guy who's won one fight since Obama was president, then that's on you. Honestly,
I've never
it's what
understood that. I always hate that. Well, why are we doing units of time in presidents? I've never understood
4-year
that.
terms, that's why. Because it's 4-year terms and in blocks. It just seems that long ago. And it's true. Alex Pereira hasn't even stepped into the UFC before Conor's last fight, not even his last win.
Yeah, it's
It's
insane, isn't it?
it's like that's how long ago it was. And you think,
Mm.
how good's a return gonna be for a 35-year-old?
No, it's not. It's it is exciting in the sense of it will be fun when it's happening, but all the build up now it feels just completely washed away, doesn't it? Now it's so hard to even be interested in this.
It's
And
not gonna reflect well on the build-up. Like you say,
no,
like no matter how much you've built this up in your head, the outcome isn't gonna be as good as what you've imagined. It
no,
can't be with the
no.
amount of time, years that we've been waiting for this.
Yeah, 100%. And like you were saying right at the top of the video, it's just such a shame that we've not got to see Michael Chandler fight. Do you think Michael Chandler needs to stop waiting and fight someone else now?
I think he should do. I don't know if he will because he's at that stage of legacy fights, isn't he?
Mm.
Chandler is maybe you could argue that he gets a title shot if he beats Conor. Maybe don't deserve it, but you kind of give favoritism and you do little favors for fighters that are close to retirement, and you think, yeah,
Yeah.
but whilst they're here, whilst they're active, let's get them up there.
Yeah, let's get the
But
most out of it, right?
who else is he going to fight? Him and Oliveira too. Might be a good fight, but like now you're just sort of throwing names at him. This
It's
should have
tricky,
happened
isn't
a
it?
while ago before making a movie. We should be looking back, reflecting on this fight, not looking forward to this.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously, you can't rush a return to the octagon with a snap leg. Of course, you can't. But I feel like we should have waited till Connor was healthy, had the movie out of the way, then done all this stuff. Like, why didn't they do tough this year? You know, you could have been doing tough this year instead. Get ready for the fight. You know, that would have been a better placement, right? Rather than waiting all this time. And with Chandler, I genuinely don't know who we should fight next, but he needs to fight. I'm bored of waiting for him to fight Connor. I want to see him fight. What he needs to do, if he comes out, fights someone, kicks the crap out of him, and doesn't call out Connor, but calls out Islam Makachev. This is his moment. You know, he can come out, look, I'm a big star. He's got nothing to lose and go towards that gold for one last time. And if he loses, so what? He'll still get to fight Connor. It won't stop anything in that fight. Connor's coming off a loss. So even if Chandler loses, it doesn't matter. I think we need to see him fight, get these big moments. And then if he wins, fantastic. Even more reason. And there's just more movement for him to move forward. I think it's a total waste of time. And it's such a shame because I love watching Chandler fight. You know, yeah, he's old as time now, but he puts on bangers, doesn't he? You know, they're just such fun fights. But
Yeah, win, lose, or draw, you can't not tune in for a Michael Chandler fight.
yeah,
I think the active roster and the top five, they should be treating Connor as if he's gone, as if he's retired.
yeah,
Like, okay, well, move forward then. Like this is how long ago it was. There was when Paul Felder was active. Someone asked him, he'd come off a win, can't remember who it was, and they said, what about like a certain Irishman? He said, no, the Irishman's retired. Doesn't
yeah,
matter. And that was it. Throwaway comment. Just stop waiting for that payout where you might get knocked out by a left hand. Just
yeah.
move forward in the division. I've said this for a while now. I think the UFC's moved on from Connor.
Mm,
And it feels like we're very much stuck in the mud in that
yeah.
division. Featherweight
That,
division. Look at it now. Alexander Volkanovski, who's been dominating. Now we've got Ilia Topuria. Max
yeah.
Holloway is a completely different fighter than the first time they fought Connor. It's a different sport, I think.
Yeah, 100%. Like the UFC should move on, but I don't think it has. I think they're still clinging on to whatever they can get out of Connor before that's it. He's done because, you know, even Islam Makachev's calling him out. Charles Oliveira's calling him out. Leon Edwards is calling him out. Everyone wants to fight him, and because it brings in the money, right? You know, it's just a fact. That's what it's happening, and it is a shame that we're not moving forward and not building these new stars because that's what the UFC needs now. It needs this other big name like Connor, and I don't think they've yet got that name right. There's not someone who's stepped up to that level of Ronda Rousey, Conor McGregor. There's no other big name as of yet.
You can't. I thought it's hard. You can't replicate that. That was lightning in a bottle for Connor.
Mm,
20, what, 13, 14, 15, 16. Lightning in a bottle completely. And it's almost like it was too perfect.
yeah.
That rise. Even the when Diaz beat him, and then he had the second one because it was a slight hiccup, and then he went and
Mm.
claimed it back. Whether you think he won that or not, whatever. But you can't replicate that. It was
No,
ideal, perfect time, perfect place, right time, everything. You'll get another star, but
eventually,
sadly, I
yeah.
think we're going to be comparing. You know,
Yeah.
we've argued before, maybe Sugar Sean, but I honestly think that Sean's popularity has kind of dripped a little bit since he became champion. You'd
Well,
think
he's
it'd be
been
the other way
inactive,
around.
hasn't he? It's a joke. Like he said, he's not going to fight till November time now or something like that. You're like, come on, mate. What are you talking about? What, you're going to fight twice a year? But on the topic of inactive champions. Now let's move on to a man who is active. He is constantly at events. The champion himself, Alex Pereira. I'm bored now talking about Conor. Let's move on as quickly as possible. And that's how bad it is, right? Me, the biggest Conor McGregor meat rider ever, is fed up of talking about Conor. It's
Yeah.
just that, that's how silly this has become. Right. So we have Alex Pereira rematching Jiri Prochazka. Do you think now, Mark, UFC 303 is actually better than it was before?
The card itself looks better. It's
Yeah.
not an absolute whirlwind of a card, but it's better than what it was.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, Alex, he must have a sore back though from carrying the UFC through certain events though, past few months. Whether you actually are rooting for him or not, you can't argue that Alex, his rise, that's great. And
Yeah.
he's got the touch of death. He's entertaining. He's everything you want in a fighter except charisma. But that's mostly his gimmick, isn't
Come on.
it? Yeah, yeah. I will win.
But that charisma or lack of charisma actually in some ways works for him, right? Because he really leans into it. Whether he's actually grumpy all the time, I don't necessarily think so. But I think he leans into that, stone-faced persona, and it works for him, right? So, he's got a gimmick and he's leaning into it, and that's great for him, right?
Absolutely. I mean, Alex, I'm too old for favorite fighters, but like one that you never miss. You got to tune in for Alex Pereira's fights because he brings it every single time. He's no spring chicken himself, but he shows no signs of slowing down at all. You could put him against anyone, put him against Iron Mike Tyson in his heyday, and you'd honestly, I don't know if I'd bet against Alex or not. He's the embodiment of what a UFC fighter is, I think.
Yeah,
Him and maybe Ruthless Robbie Lawler back in the day, where you're like, this is what a cage fighter is. He's not an MMA fighter, he's a cage fighter.
yeah.
And he puts the asses in seats. He's getting knockouts left, right, and center. To be a double champion when you joined the company less than 3 years ago is ridiculous.
It's insane, isn't it? And with how active he's been, it's just, it's immense. And it's so good to see someone willing to do this, put so much on the line. Alex has now saved two major pay-per-views this year. He saved UFC 300. He was a late replacement for that. I mean, it took ages for us to get this main event announced. And then all of a sudden, 3, 4 weeks beforehand, oh, we've got a main event now. It's like, right, okay. So he probably wasn't even a full training camp. What's going on? And now he's taking this fight in what, 2 weeks notice time? It's amazing. It's immense. Do you think Alex is now becoming sort of that superhero of the UFC?
He's got to be. Even people who, it's usually with Alex Pereira, it seems to be you're either Camp Izzy or Camp Pereira. And it doesn't have to be like that. He's in a
Yeah,
complete.
I'm both without a shadow. I love Izzy. And I know it's a bit lame, and people are like, oh, he paints his nails, he sucks, whatever. But I love Izzy and I love Alex. Like it's like you were saying before, we're too old for favorites, right? Like for me, if you're stepping in the octagon and you're active, I'm a fan of you. I don't care. Even the ones I don't like, I still like, right?
Apart from Colby Covington after the last performance. But anyway, that's by the by. With Alex, you can't argue that he always turns up. I mean, we'll love him or hate him. You're allowed to not like a fighter,
Yeah,
but
of
you'll
course.
always tune in for his fights because he
Mm,
is entertaining as hell. And in the light heavyweight division, he is the perfect formula of what they needed. This division's been dead for a long time. We've said this
long time.
before, and it looks like, especially being Glover's, what do you call it, protege? Maybe you
Yeah.
could maybe call him that.
Yeah, it definitely is.
He swept that belt, got revenge for him against Jamal Hill, and now I think he's there to stay. And it wouldn't surprise me even if Alex decided a run at heavyweight might work for him.
It
It's
might do.
possible.
Honestly, he could. If anyone is going to be triple champion in the UFC and who deserves it, I think is Alex because with his run, I was always very hesitant. I said, I thought I don't think he deserves this title shot with Izzy. I don't think he deserves his title shot at light heavyweight. but he's turned me around. He's like, for him to be so active, so willing to put all of this on the line, he can have whatever he wants. Give him all the belts. Let him fight Pantoja. Give him a scrap. If he can get down to it, he can have it. Yeah.
2 versus 1 like Eddie Hall.
Yeah.
Just stood there like a colossus. 1 hand each. No, I mean, we're just speculating now, but if Alex did end up getting a third belt at one stage, move over John Jones. Alex has completed MMA.
100%. He really has, hasn't he? And but and Yuri's putting a lot on the line here as well. Getting a rematch with Alex. Yeah, he was probably going to get one eventually, but now he's taking this on 2 weeks' notice, putting himself at risk when he could, wait it out. Gone, no, I'm going to wait. I'm going to have my full training camp, get something near the end of the year, and I'll have that then. So he's a hero as well. He's come out and he fought at 300 at the same time. So he's been just as active as Alex since his return from his injury. So it's fantastic to see him fight. But Mac, I know it's hard to push you, especially when I assume we'll do a prediction video actually next week. That's how quick this sort of turnaround is. But what's your not early predictions, because it's not that early? What's your predictions for this fight with Alex Pereira and Jiri Prochazka?
I think it goes the same way as the first time they met. I think Alex knocks him out, especially if the year he turns up that fought at 300. What a weird fight that was against Rakic.
Yeah, very strange. Very, very
It's like
strange.
You said before, his offense is almost like getting hit and then striking. Alex Pereira don't give you that chance. If you get touched one too many times, that's it. You're going to be on your ass, I think. He's a weird, wiry fighter that people can't figure out. That's what made him as good as what he is.
Yeah.
But against Alex, I don't think you really get that chance. So I think it's probably going to go the same way. Maybe even a round 1 knockout by Alex. What do you think?
I actually think the opposite. I'm going to pick Jiri Prochazka this
Oh.
time around. I think he's a very dynamic fighter. He's willing to learn. He's willing to put that time in. I know without a shadow of a doubt, the second that he lost that fight to Alex, he was like, right, what can we do? What can we do to adjust? How can we get this back? And I think if Yuri is the warrior that he is, he's going to come out and he's going to achieve something great here. He's going to do something special. And what I find so interesting is what makes Yuri so dangerous is what makes him so vulnerable as well, though, right? Those risky moves he does. Yeah, that's what made him lose the fight, but that's when he was having the most success against Alex. Like, you need to remember, he was rocking Alex as well, and he had Alex on the ropes at one point. So it was getting difficult for Alex. So I think something interesting can happen here. And don't forget, right, Yuri has been training. We've seen it on his social media. He's been constantly in the gym. Alex Pereira has been on a press tour. He's been doing some big seminars all across the world. I think he was in Ireland the other day, then he was some in other countries. He's getting around, and apparently he's got 2 broken toes. So, he's coming in with an injury as well. And I think Yuri might be able to slice this. But what I do like about this, if Yuri wins, that means we're going to get a trilogy. And so for me, it's going to be a fun fight no matter what. And it'd be nice, maybe, with how active these guys are, we could see a trilogy near the end of the year, and these three guys could fight 3 times within 12 months.
Well, I think these two, and to an extent, Jamal Hill, they're almost carrying the light heavyweight division on the back.
Without a doubt.
Definitely possible that Yuri can do it, because Alex and Yuri, they're the 2 fighters that terrify me the most in the entire UFC. I mean, he was training for a long time before his last one, in the dark room with a samurai sword,
Yeah.
just to learn how to not check a kick. Do you remember his leg getting chewed up in that? I mean, again,
Alex has got intense kicks, hasn't he?
Up.
Yeah.
Depends which one, because we've seen him look phenomenal, and then we've seen him, in a really tough fight against even Glover Teixeira a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
He nearly got finished in there, but then, he pulled it back and got a submission win. That's a route that it could go down as well.
Yeah.
Either way, you asked me previously, is this card been improved since this fight's been announced? Absolutely. Look at how much we're back and forth talking about this.
Yeah.
This is a fight that we knew that we would see again, but maybe not quite this soon. Who cares if Yuri does or doesn't deserve it? Who's bothered? We want to see this fight. Let's get this light heavyweight division back in motion again.
Yeah.
And let's find out, like you say, who's going to come out on top. If Yuri loses, I think he's got a lot to lose there, though. He probably won't get another chance at the title for a long time.
Exactly. It's a big risk for both guys. Alex is putting a lot on the line. He's putting his gold on the line. He's putting his career on the line. And Yuri's putting his last opportunity at gold on the line for 2 weeks' notice. I think
Mhm.
this is how much damage that Conor McGregor has done. This is a lot of pressure to put on these two guys, but they're both willing to do it. And for me, amazing, right? What a set of guys. But while we're on sort of the topic of the light heavyweight division, Jamal Hill is also out of UFC 303. He was supposed to be fighting Ulberg, and who was he supposed to fight before that? I don't even remember. He was supposed
Khalil
to fight.
Roundtree.
That was it, Cali Roundtree. He was supposed to fight him as well. And now we're giving Ulberg versus Anthony Smith. Do you think this is still a good opportunity for Ulberg, though? Because he's now fighting a ranked opponent in Smith and someone probably an easier fight, right?
Yeah, if we are being honest, it's probably an easier fight. Anthony Smith, don't forget Khalil Roundtree battered the living hell out of him as
Yeah,
well.
cream crackered him.
Yeah, I like Smith, and I like watching him fight when it's on the ground. Other than that, it's just him getting absolutely nailed. This is a great opportunity for Ulberg. Jamal Hill, look, unfortunately, whether injured or not, something's happened. The division moves on, and you
Yeah.
might have missed your chance here, So we'll see what happens. This sport, it talked a lot for a guy who didn't fight in a year. Talked a lot about Alex Pereira. Even, watched him with the walkout. I want to see it. I want to come down just to get
I
flat.
loved all that stuff. I loved it. I thought it was so
I
much.
look, it's what makes the sport, but at the
Yeah,
same time, you got flattened in one round. So you're
definitely.
like, well, you can't
It's
argue his run to the top and that fight with Glover Teixeira couldn't get him out of there, but Glover's a hard dude to put away
yeah.
unless you're Anthony Rumble Johnson, gets it done in 12 seconds. But no, I think it's still not a bad fight,
No,
but it's more for Ulberg's opportunity as opposed to
100%. Yeah.
Smith maintaining his position.
Yeah, definitely. And it's not overly a fight that I'm particularly interested in, but it's nice to see that Ulberg's not fully getting knocked back and he's getting at least a ranked opponent and that opportunity to make a bit of a name for himself, right? And Matt, now we move on to your favorite fighter of all time, Brian Ortega. He's going to be fighting Diego Lopez. What do you think of this fight on this card?
But Brian Ortega, honestly, and injuries aside, you should have like an inactive rule. If you're out for a certain amount of months, get rid of you. Who cares about Brian Ortega anymore?
Yeah.
Honestly, his day's done. Send him backpacking on his skateboard and that terrible haircut. Who's bothered about Brian? I hope Diego batters the living shit out of him.
To be fair, me too. I think with Diego, this is opportunity, right? If he can get Ortega out of there, that puts him right at the top of the pile, and we could see him getting a title within a year, maybe even less, right? This is his opportunity, and I'm glad he's getting it. And sort of talking of inactive fighters, what a day this has been. Hamzat Chimaev is
Oh,
also out of his fight with Robert Whittaker. What on earth is going on with Hamzat?
I don't- you know when your dog just keeps getting ill, and eventually you've just got to like look at the shovel in the backyard, and you got to think kindest thing to do in this situation.
Oh my god.
No, you know what I mean. Though I mean, look, I hope he's all right and everything,
I
but
hope he's
come on,
okay, but I do think we should put him down.
yeah, that's it. Yeah, Harold Shipman, he had a lethal jab, didn't he?
Uh,
But we'll get that. We'll get that going. It's such a shame because Hamzat's rise when he was fighting Cans, and then he got stepped up in competition against like Gerald Mearshart, is that how you say it?
yeah,
And Li Jingliang, he was still slicing through him. Tough fight against Gilbert Burns. Then came, like the Kevin Holland fight, the Usman fight, where you could see this guy's beatable. As soon as we've got to this stage, he starts getting ill. You can't help that, but he is constantly sick.
yeah,
Now, Robert Whittaker's got a new opponent, and who's bothered? Really, what does this win do for Whittaker? If he wins,
nothing.
he's just established. Yeah, he's still great. He's still
But
Rob
what's
Whittaker. He's still the
interesting
Reaper.
is the guy he's fighting, Ikram. Ikram's famous for getting battered by Hamzat. That's literally why everyone knows Ikram because he got battered by Hamzat Chimaev. That's what people know him for. So it's so weird. It's a strange fight, isn't it? And it's weird that Rob's taking this risk. What does Rob get out of it? Do you think the UFC have said, look, Rob, if you still get this fight, you're still the number one contender? Do you think we could see him get a title shot if he beats Ikram?
No, you don't. No, absolutely not. I really do like Rob as well. I never miss one of his fights, but I don't. He doesn't deserve it. Even if he got through Hamzat, I wouldn't even be sure if he did deserve it either.
Mm.
Let's not forget his last win with Paulo Costa, and Paulo's just so inconsistent. He's up and down.
Yeah. And
So
don't forget, he's lost to Duplessis and Israel already. So, you know, the winner out of those, are they really going to go, oh, yeah, I'll rematch Rob? And especially when Sean Strickland's just come off a win as well. Like, I'm not a big fan of Sean Strickland, but if anyone deserves a title shot, he could have a rematch with Izzy or with Duplessis. I think both of those guys would want it. So, unfortunately, it seems unlikely Rob will not get a title shot off this, right?
Sean versus Rob, that'd make sense.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense.
What like after this fight, if Rob does get through Ikram, Sean v Rob, and then the winner of that, then it's like, okay, it's justified more than anything. Middleweight division, it was going through rematch after rematch for a long time, and you want to avoid that pot again, where you just start recirculating fights because then you think, oh, come on, we've got more to offer than this. But you've got them gatekeepers at the top, don't you? And they've been
Yeah.
there for quite a while now, quite a few years. Sean Strickland, love him or hate him, he is good. He might not be the most entertaining fighter, but he is good and he can get people out of there. Yeah, the Macarena sort of thing that he's doing. Next time he's fighting, just watch the next time, and then just play it in the background.
Okay, we'll do that.
We'll do that when we live stream and we can join in.
Yeah. And I don't know how UFC has managed to pull this off, but they've saved these cards. And UFC 303 is certainly different and perhaps even better. But thank you for watching. If you can like, comment, and subscribe, it really does help us out.